Prosperity Homestead is for a specific set of individuals who are interested in homesteading. They want to start a small farm. They have an interest and desire of being outdoors and having more personal freedom. They're interested in self reliance, being food secure, and physically secure. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why those who would most benefit from this podcast don't take action. So, first off, there's a financial concern about purchasing land and equipment and infrastructure to start a farm or a homestead. There are a lot of homesteads that make mistakes. They get started, it ends up being extremely costly. Land today can be $12,000 an acre. Gone are the days of the $1,500 an acre. You really have to dig down in for that. Now, we're still finding that kind of acreage for clients, but it means you have to buy larger acres. So you have to buy 100 acres, 200 acres, 300 acres. If you're buying 5 acres to start your small farm or homestead right outside of a city, it can be extremely expensive. So I understand the fear of purchasing land. Now, as far as equipment is concerned, I'm trying to teach methods that don't require any equipment. In fact, I'm setting up a demonstration that we're going to have the minimal amount of equipment in place. And then I'm going to visit other people's farms and we can talk about some of the equipment that they purchased and why they purchased it. So, for example, putting in the gravel pad at the site that we're working on right now, it has it was done by equipment that I didn't own. I didn't own the dump truck. I didn't own the bulldozer. I didn't own the excavator. And it's important to know where you can get these resources because, yes, equipment is expensive. You guys saw I had a BCS tractor, and the BCS tractor is perfectly suited for some conditions where a ATV or a side by side might be suited for other conditions. We'll talk about that because the financial concern is really there. There's a lot of people with unpredictable incomes that get into homesteading because they think they're going to save money. The typical commercial farm today costs more than $1 million to set up from scratch. Now, again, we'll talk about techniques of buying out someone else's farm. We'll talk about techniques about how you can get into a farm using someone else's land. But again, there's a common fear of the financial concern. The next is the lack of homesteading skills. Running a homestead, and we've talked about estate management. So, wherever you live today, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a house, you can start practicing the household management techniques of estate management. So, for example, you can get your house cleaned by someone else in order to free up time for you to do more billable activity so that you can generate the revenue necessary to actually go and buy the land that you need. Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, why would I hire someone to do something for me that I could easily do myself? Well, that's the skill of project management and financial management because if you can hire someone to clean your house while for the equivalent of number of hours that they're cleaning your house, you can add additional income to your family and the additional income is greater than what you're expending, then you really ought to be developing the career. You really ought to be developing the professional side. There's other aspects of the skills for homesteading that are specific to homesteading. If you have not managed animals before, and again, I'm sharing my journey. I grew up, we had goats and chickens and rabbits and things like that, but as an adult, I'm 30 years removed from those skills. And so I'm learning how to manage goats, how to manage pigs, how to design the paddocks, how to provide for the food, how to calculate animal load per acre. Those are skills that you can start learning before you even have your land if you have an interest in raising goats, sheep, pigs, cattle. There's all kinds of animals. Now, as you know, that Prosperity Homestead is not about having an exotic petting zoo. We have some friends here in the community that have a nonprofit exotic petting zoo, and I can visit there anytime I want, and I can see the ostriches and the llamas and all these other things. Uh, I don't need to have that on my own homestead. So you want to scope your skills by what's most practical. And then many of the skills that are going to be inside of the house, the homestead house, which could be, for example, how to preserve foods, how to ferment foods, different types of cooking techniques to be more efficient and have more healthy and organic foods, ways of shopping. You're not going to be able to grow everything on your homestead right away. So to be self sufficient could mean partnering with local farms, shopping at the farmers market, or making different food choices. These are very important things, and you're going to start seeing the workload and time commitment that's necessary because a lot of people fear that once you have a farm and they already know they're busy managing 1,200 square foot house. What's going to happen when you have a 1,200 square foot house and a 10,000 square foot barn and 12 acres of pasture? Your time constraints are going to be there. So what we do is, and I recommend it, is where you're at today. I know there's beautiful YouTube videos and the lifestyle looks amazing, but where you're at today, I want you to take care of your personal needs. So that's family and relationship time. It could be involvement in the community, your food security needs. It could be starting a small garden or buying different in the marketplace. And then ultimately, your day to day health needs, which could be the physical labor and the exercise necessary to have that endurance you're going to need to work on a farm. So if you've got a homestead, there's certain chores that have to happen every day, whether or not it's raining, whether or not there's a storm, whether or not you feel like it. These things have to be done. And so the workload and time commitment we can practice in our careers right now. So you can practice the time management. You start developing those soft skills that none of these vloggers are talking about. There's a lot of farm skills that are practical skills that you can be practicing. That's what makes them practical. You can practice them in a broad scope of situations. Um, and so you can get started today. Now, another concern is isolation. What you're going to discover is that running your own small farm, homestead, or an estate. Now, the estate is the top level. You're going to have a lot of staff. You're going to have people running around doing stuff for you. You're going to have a cash flow and production that funds an elevated lifestyle that many people dream of, but most people don't achieve. But your homestead is where you can start right now. You can do the majority of the work on your homestead not by getting better skills, but by focusing your activity and effort on a more narrow scope of things. Now, here's what happens though. Uh, if you move out into a rural area and you're used to having a lot more social activity, you're going to feel lonely. If you move out into a rural area and you're used to a lot of entertainment, you're going to find yourself driving into town all the time, which is going to take up more money and time, and you're going to feel isolated. So if you don't work on those relationship skills that we talk about, which I recommend you to volunteer on local farms and find out who your local farmer is and get to meet the farmer and get to know them and invest with your current dollars to build relationships so that when you're out on the farm, you can be a part of a Ruritan club, fraternity, some kind of civic organization. You could be a part of a co-op, and then get that emotional connection need and kind of fight off the isolation, but also enjoy the isolation better because a hike in the woods with your kids or a hike in the woods to go hunting or to enjoy the trail system that you've put together or to just watch the animals doing what animals do because they're living their best life on your farm. These are things that are important. You shouldn't fear them when it comes to learning the essential homesteading skills and moving towards a homestead. Because again, there's emotional challenges there. There's going to be stress. There's going to be relatives who thought it was a great idea for you to start a homestead, but they never come out and visit or anything. One of the things I've seen before happen frequently is there's this dream of a grand farmhouse, and it's 3,200 square foot, and you've got the barn, and you've got the tractor, and then you're broke. You don't have any money, where you could have been better off, like I've shown you in a number of videos, and we're doing on a large project here, of just starting by camping on the land, by just starting to experience nature as close as nature as possible. And then you might find out that you only need a 500 square foot tiny house because you spend all your time outside anyway. And now you have maybe an outdoor kitchen area where you can entertain people, and maybe you have some riding trails or places where you can go on the property to experience nature. Maybe you have a larger than average garden, and that's where you're entertaining and having tea or relaxing with friends rather than having to build the infrastructure. Because what you'll find very often, and this goes back to the financial concerns and also the market fluctuation concerns, and we can talk about that in a second, is that if you're having to spend $255 a square foot to build a house, your 1,000 square foot house is going to be $250,000. And so you've invested in land, maybe $100,000 in land, and you've got 5 acres, or even like $800,000 to get 400 acres, you may not have the money available to invest in that house. And if you invest in that house, again, these are skills you can start practicing now. If you invest in that house, you may not have the cash available to get proper stocking levels for livestock, fencing in place, watering systems, electricity where it needs to be ran. And you could end up with a nice farm that you got to sell at a discount for pennies on the dollar because now you're bankrupt. So you have to think about this. You may not be able to leave your day job right now, but you may be able to have a phased planned approach to get into your homestead before retirement. I don't want you to have to wait till retirement. But again, Prosperity Homestead focuses on a specific set of individuals. We're not here about your podcasting dreams and about your recognition from your neighbors. We're talking about a food secure, a physically secure, and a self-reliant environment that you can pass along for generations. So the isolation's not a big deal when it's a place that people want to come to, and you design family reunions around it. The concerns and frustrations that come with the relationship strain because you get into the farm and it's not the way you expect it. Well, you can start planning with your partner, your spouse right now and start thinking about what you want to do. Also, the phased approach helps you go over the learning curve in a reasonable way. So think about it. Are you going to feel overwhelmed because of the steep learning curve and the surprises and the things you didn't expect in the homestead? Well, again, if you come from a non agricultural background, there are ways of gaining that experience through volunteering, through residence, through internships, and then as you move to your farm, you can scale it appropriately so that you can do those things that are best for you. Some people lose confidence because they come out from a rural area. They come out from an urban area where everything's pretty accessible to a rural area where it might take a month to get somebody to come out with a tractor, and you might say, well, I'll just buy a tractor. And then you buy a tractor and then it's broken down and you got to fix the tractor. There's a lot of things to consider. Finally, we want to talk about regulatory and zoning issues. Some people will settle for an acre in a city, and I'm going to speak from experience here. I have 2 acres in a city. I own the house I'm in and the house next to me. I had dreams of getting the 40 acres behind me. I've negotiated that. I had a plan for a permaculture design center, but everything went wrong with the city. Now, if I greased some palms and I had a little bit extra cash, maybe it would have gone away easily. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I'm just saying that regulatory and zoning issues, even if you do everything by the book, you can have legal complications. You can have neighbors get upset. You can have somebody decide that they don't like what you're doing who doesn't even live in your neighborhood, who decides to go ahead and tattletale and cause trouble for you. You can have investors. I put a bunch of money into these houses. I've seen other people put a bunch of money into their houses, and then investors who want to get the house for pennies on the dollar put pressure on them. So there are quality of life issues we need to know about. There are legacy issues you need to be aware of. If you want to escape the urban life, you don't want to bring those frustrations with you. You want to make sure the health and safety of your animals is taken care of very early in having livestock. You want to make sure your health and safety is taken care of because a tractor, the leading cause of death on farms is accident. You don't want a tractor to fall on you. You don't want a farm jack to rip your arm off. You don't want a container to roll over. So, self sufficiency and food security and environmental stewardship and connection with land and community, these are things that can come through the cultivation of the homesteading skills. And you can go from a homestead that is self reliant, meaning it takes care of yourself and your family and it delivers to you a wonderful lifestyle. And you can elevate that to a small farm where you're actually selling in the community and you're interacting with people and you're cultivating that interaction and community. And then later on, even to an estate that's cash flowing for generations. But, but you have to get good advice. Now, I'm not going to call out specific podcasters or specific YouTube channels, but you may notice if you look back in the history of some of these channels is that things don't always work out well for them. Now, I try to be extremely transparent and tell you what doesn't work for us because sometimes things don't work out for us too. It's just the way it is. But if you're running a homestead and you are legitimately got animals and you legitimately got things, unless you're also running an entertainment business, you're not going to have a lot of time to be up doing podcasts and stuff. And I'll tell you, there's so much that could be recorded on what we're doing at the farms that I manage or that the farms that I work on, uh, but we don't have time for it. We're stretching fence, we're digging holes, we're leveling containers. And so all I usually get to do is when I'm taking a break is just cut a little video and get it out there. I would be concerned about the channels that have the high production value and the a lot of content because they're in the content business as much as they're in the farming business. Now that's an okay model. There's nothing wrong with that. You might find some home-based businesses to run while you're running your homestead. So the financial concern could be alleviated by value-added products. I know a lot of people who don't have YouTube channels and they don't have, a bunch of followers on their social media who have value-added products that are a significant part of their income. There may be cases where you don't want anyone to even know you have a homestead. There's a couple folks that we know that have rural estates and it has a small little cottage on it, but it has prime hunting land, and their agricultural livestock is the turkey, the bear, the deer, the different types of sporting animals that are around. They go as far as to raise quail and have habitat for quail, and their primary focus is natural habitat, and so they have enough space to park a truck and to unload it into the cabin, and then other than that, it's just walking trails or small hiking trails for 300-400 acres of land. So what's important for you, we can discuss in a consultation. We can start developing that plan. We can help you start finding the land. But these worries and concerns, the emotional uncertainty that comes with this is not going to be resolved in another podcast video. It's not going to be resolved in watching somebody's channel. Sure, you're going to pick up little tips and tricks here and there, but if you're serious about running a homestead or starting a homestead, it starts now with wherever you live today. The concept of homesteading and becoming more self sufficient, reducing burnout and stress, becoming more self reliant can start right now where you're at. How you manage your household, how you buy food, where you buy your food from, where you spend your social time. Then we start moving towards the land that you want, and that's going to be built on your hobbies and interests because you're going to hold this land for generations. Now, we have talked before about buying a piece of land, getting onto the land very lightly. That means you're going to get some infrastructure improvements, you're going to get electricity and power on it, but you're not going to build a big old house because you want to maintain the resale value. So you might buy a piece of land that's in disrepair, improve it for agriculture, and then when you find a better, more ideal piece of land someplace else, you're going to sell the previous farm, or maybe you're going to manage it as a satellite farm. There's a lot of options there. So we want to write those down as well and start building out your written plan. Many of our clients have written plans that have taken them towards the lifestyle faster than watching hundreds of videos or attending classes or downloading programs online. My permaculture design certification was extremely valuable because I came into the certification with 2 to 3 thousand hours of practical education and implementation. Now I got the Virginia Master Naturalist certification, but again, certification alone has little value if you don't have places to implement. So I really want to make sure you understood where we're coming from at Prosperity Homestead because we are a different approach to this, and the unique value to what we do is about increasing land value. It's about that escape from the urban life or not. You might want to farm in the middle of a city depending on how it's set up. It's about that legacy that you're going to create for yourself and family, about the financial freedom, the connection with land and community. These things are difficult to measure monetarily, but if you seek them the wrong way, you'll spend all the money you have. Again, basic commercial farm, $1 million startup costs. A homestead could be a $500,000 startup cost. Starting where you're at today, priceless. Priceless. So again, I want to hear your questions, concerns, and frustrations. I make it my duty to study the 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 people that we're helping, the clients that we help. Now again, I have my income stream is through the consulting services, which I primarily deliver to Fortune 500 companies that are so the risk management and business development skill set is what I sell to Fortune 500 companies, and then I work remotely. So that's how I'm able to be on my homestead and have the flexibility to do the podcasts and to do the videos. But even then, many of these things are done in the evening and on weekends, and as we add more animals in play, as we add more land under management, less and less time is available to consistently publish what really should be entertainment. It'd be much more popular if it was entertainment. But again, the unique individuals, the high income professionals, the business owners and entrepreneurs, the executives, the individuals who are looking for simplicity, the individuals who are interested in having that legacy, that succession planning, that healthier lifestyle, they don't mind that the podcast is a little rough and that the videos aren't pristinely edited. But they are active in asking questions. That's the key. To ask questions relevant to your situation, then sit down for a consultation or discovery call and start building out that plan. Start implementing right now where you're at today. Start increasing your food security where you're at today, and then move towards that land, move towards that escape from the urban space, even if it's just your weekends. And then finally start building up the uh, kind of not the perfect, it won't be perfect, but that lifestyle, that wealth building, that control, and that substance in many cases that lets you know that no matter what happens in the economy, no matter what happens politically, no matter what happens in your region, you will be secure. You will be safe and you will be proud of what you've built for your family. It's it's a skill set that even if your land is taken away from you, you're still going to benefit from it. But I don't want that to be the expense of experience where, like many homesteaders, you go broke in the first 2 years because you did it the wrong way. You made a lot of mistakes. So, again, I'm here to help you avoid the mistakes. I'm here to help you focus on your goals and outcomes, not the ones that they're telling you should have on the YouTube channels, and also to help you with the gritty reality of what it takes to get this thing accomplished. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I want to thank you for being a part of what we do here. Many happy clients have gotten results. I hope to share more of those success stories with you. But frankly, nobody even needs to know that you're doing this because there are folks on the outside who have they have a misconception about what homesteading is. You're not rebellious necessarily. You just want freedom. You just want liberty for yourself and family. You want to be able to escape the hustle and bustle, reduce stress, and ultimately live on your own terms. And so you're in the right place. If you have any questions or when you have questions, visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org. And this has been about really who do we serve? We're not for everybody. And if we're for you, I hope you'll tune in next time as I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead, where we help you increase the utility value of your land and live a prosperous homestead.